All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us today. It's our first webinar in the year, and we are excited you can join us. If you're joining us for the first time, or you're joining us for the first time in a long time, this is Parenting Resources and Initiatives, and we are going to be taking you through a journey with us this morning or this afternoon, as the case may be. Our agenda is, this is the agenda I'm running through. We'll welcome you and tell you who we are. And then, of course, our topic for today is self-care, taking care of yourself, giving yourself me time. And we have a fantastic presenter today who is going to walk us through that journey of how we can take proper care of ourselves. During the presentation, she would also have some polls, some fun polls that we can all engage in, and we encourage you to participate. After that, we would have the questions, comments, and contributions section. Of course, during the presentation, we encourage you to engage with us. If you have questions, put them in the chat. If you have comments, if you have some myths that you want to bust, or if you have things that maybe you don't even agree with, feel free to put them in the chat, and our team, would engage with you on the chat. And so that's our agenda for today. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you who we are, just for the benefit of those who are joining us for the very first time and you're not familiar with us. So PRI, as we call it, it's Parenting Resources and Initiatives, and we're a faith-based, non-denominational organization. We're committed to helping parents fulfill their God-given role of raising well-rounded children. We enable thriving families with excellent parent-child communication in a conducive environment where a child's potentials are maximized. We encourage, support, and provide resources for parents to raise children who will be spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally sound. So whatever it takes to do any and all of this, you would find us there. We engage with youth, we engage with families, we engage with churches, we engage with other non-profit organizations. And like it says, we are faith-based. So that means you will be hearing us refer to the Bible, talk about God, because we are faith-based. Of course, everything we share is relevant to anyone that is a family, anyone that is a parent, any youth. But we want you to understand that we are faith-based and we'll be coming from that angle. So we'll be sharing scriptures from time to time. We'll be talking about God, talking about prayers, and we know that you will be blessed. So today we have a wonderful person that is going to be taking us through this journey. Her name is Valerie Mills. She's a licensed mediator, qualified interpreter, and she was an international attorney in her country of origin, Ghana. She's also a graduate of the University of Georgia, where she obtained her Master of Laws degree. In her current position, she leads programs that identify and engage internal and external stakeholders to facilitate the seamless integration of the city of Atlanta's foreign-born population to enable them to thrive. As an immigrant herself, Valerie is passionate about bridging economic divides through advocacy and innovative policy. And Valerie is also a team member. She's a member of the PRI organization. So today she's going to share some wonderful insights with us, help us to understand what and what is not self-care, and generally, share her experiences. So please welcome with me, Valerie Mills. Over to you, Valerie.
Good morning, everyone, and you're most welcome. You're all very welcome to the maiden edition of PRI's webinars for 2023. And before we go further, I want you all to get into the space of self-care. This presentation is not to hold a stick over anybody's head and say, you haven't done this, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. Neither is it the kind of presentation that should make you feel, oh my goodness, woe is me. I haven't taken care of this and I haven't taken care of this. No, we all need to work on our self-care. We all have work to do. We are all not there yet. And even if we think we have arrived, we still have space for improvement. But really, what is what exactly is self-care? While we wait for the screen to come up, self-care is actually, and I think we'll hold on to some quotes about self-care while we pull up the screen. Now, self-care is quite literally taking care of ourselves, our whole self. It's from taking care of our body to taking care of our mind, our emotions, nurturing ourselves as a human being. And you see, I keep saying our in terms of mind. So self-care is not for anybody else to do for you. It's for you to do for yourself. And then it's also taking care of your well-being, taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. I share with people that sometimes I don't know why we learn certain things in school, but we did. And today, if I could see my professor, I'd probably say, oh, thank you for teaching me that Latin phrase. Nemo dat quod non habet. Nemo dat quod non habet. It's a Latin phrase that means you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give what you do not have. So which means if I'm lacking in taking care of myself, or I'm failing woefully in taking care of myself, guess what? I'm not going to be taking care of anybody around me. I might think I am, but I won't be. The other thing is self-care means a conscious act by people, or a conscious act people take in order to promote their own physical, mental, and emotional health. I'll let that sit in and sink in a little bit. Taking care of our own physical, mental, and emotional health. Now that we've seen what self-care is, I just wanted us to look at a few quotes about self-care. And when I was looking at them, I was totally amused by them. And as I was amused and laughing at them, I was thinking to myself, wow, how true. Anne Lamott says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. You know when your phone is acting up and you just unplug it, what happens? It starts acting right. It means that we also sometimes have to be able to unplug, to switch off, so that when we switch on, we're switching on better. Deborah Day says, nourishing yourself in a way that helps you blossom in the direction you want to go is attainable, and you are worth the effort. You remember when we started off and I asked you to put the things in the chat about what comes to mind when you think of self-care? One of the things for some people is that, oh, it's not possible for me at this time. Oh, it's a luxury for me at this time. Oh, it's selfish at this time. No. This is something somebody says, and I believe it. Nourishing yourself in a way that helps you blossom in the direction you want to go is attainable, and you're worth the effort. And then the other one that I saw that really struck me was, an empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is the fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. In Matthew 25, you know the story of the 10 virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. 5 decided, on our way to see the bridegroom, we need to get our own liters of oil, or we need to have our oil to go just in case we need to fill up. The 5 were like, oh, don't worry about it. Now it's getting to the time the bridegroom is coming. We need the light. And guess what? The 5 foolish ones don't have any light to put on because there's no fuel to put on the light. They ask for oil from their 5 wise friends, and they're like, no, go and get yours. By the time they go and come back, they don't have access to where they're supposed to go. What does that mean to us? It means that if I don't recharge, if I don't fuel me, I will run on fumes, I will have no light, and guess what happens? Everybody around me will see darkness. What will also happen is I'll start having to ask for assistance to be able to get my light on. That could start being looking for medication to sleep. That could start being having to go to the hospital because I just keep getting these headaches. I don't understand. And that is not what we want for us. When Sister Bola was introducing us, we are faith-based. And I've referred already to Matthew 25, but now I want us to focus on Matthew 11, 28 to 30. And I'll read it. It says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away. And just in case you're wondering, this is not in my Bible, that's because this is the Message version. The Message has a way of putting the scripture, but sometimes it has a way of nailing it right where we need to see it or right where we need it. It says, get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Who? God. Watch how I do it. Learn the enforced rhythms of grace. I've highlighted it because it's so important. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the enforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you will learn to live freely and lightly. Once again, I go to walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the enforced rhythms of grace. When it comes to grace, we know it's unmerited favor, or maybe we don't. Well, it's unmerited favor. And it's the ability to do things that on your own you can't do. So what the Bible is telling, what God is telling us in this scripture is, if we'll just put our hands in his hands and spend time with him and watch how he does it through his word, spending time in the word, spending time in worship, spending time in praise, spending time in the company of believers, we'll be able to navigate this life a little better. Because you'll see that, or maybe I'll just say that currently we live in an overstimulated world. It's like constantly on the go, constantly on the go. And somehow working hard and exhaustion have become synonymous. Some time ago, it wasn't like that. So we are currently exhausted, which means that everything around us is crying no self-care, because it's like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. That is the more reason why we have to be intentional about our self-care. We are constantly beating ourselves up about trying to reach a certain target. That target is sometimes even unattainable, but we are doing it. We're like, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. Putting ourselves on the back burner, which is not helping. I want us to leave today's presentation not believing the lie that we have to burn the candle at both ends in order to be successful, or in order to be termed as we're making it. That's not what it is. We want to strive not again to join the masses of high achieving, high producing, but chronically burnt out individuals. That is what we want to leave this presentation with. So with that being said, what does self-care look like? You'll see that there are about 7 areas of self-care. I'll focus on just 5. And those 5, the 2 others, you see the 5 on the screen, but the 2 others I won't be talking about, but alluding to sensory and creative self-care. But physical self-care, I want you to please indulge me, grab a piece of paper and a pen and start answering these questions. If you can, please take a picture of it so you can go back to it later. Are you getting adequate sleep? Is your diet fueling your body well? Are you taking charge of your health? Are you going on those appointments, those medical appointments that you put up on your calendar 3 months ago and you should have gone 3 months ago? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you scheduling downtime and or vacation? These are things, or these are questions that we are asking to assess how we're doing. Remember when I started, I said, this is not to bash anybody over the head about not doing it. You're not doing enough. No. It's to get us to see what we're doing right, what we're not doing, and what we need to improve on. Social self-care. Are you getting enough face-to-face time with your friends? And for some of us, it would be, am I getting that enough? Would be, for this particular friend, I need to cut the FaceTime a little bit more. It's about boundaries. What are you doing to nurture your relationships with friends and family? What does it look like for that friend or that family that leaves me feeling not enough or leaves me feeling less than? How am I navigating that space so that I can take care of me? Because guess what? After they're done with whatever they do, I have to deal with my emotions. I have to deal with my thoughts. So those boundaries, those things that we identify and we want to ensure do not mess with the alignment of our self-care. Mental self-care. Are you making time for activities that mentally stimulate you? Are you doing proactive things to help you stay mentally healthy? For some people, it's Sudoku. For others, is Scrabble. For others, is chess. For others, is debates. And for others, is watching chick flicks or love stories on Up TV. And it stimulates our mind. What is it for you? Are you doing it? Spiritual self-care. What questions do you ask yourself about your life and experience? Are you engaging in spiritual practices that you find fulfilling? Are you exercising your faith muscle in terms of God brought me through this, and that is now happening? Am I looking at it in terms of, well, he brought me through this, then he will bring me through that, just so that I'm not frazzled, I'm not pulling out my hair, I'm not leaning on my own understanding and my own wisdom, but I'm trusting in his. Spiritual self-care. What questions do you ask yourself about your life and experience? We've talked about that. Emotional self-care. Do you have healthy ways to process your emotions? He upsets me, she upset me yesterday or today. She made me feel less than. She attacked my being. Am I addressing it? Or am I sweeping it under the rug and thinking, oh, you know what? Insults break no bones. I can move on. What are we doing? How are we handling it? Because remember, with these things, these pains, these grief, it could even be grief, whatever it is, sometimes we end up with a scab over an open festering wound because we haven't addressed it. So if somebody touches that scab, it's a scab, so it looks dry, but underneath it is a wound. So somebody touches it, and then we spew out this avalanche of emotions, and the person at the receiving end is like, hey, hold on a second. What did I do to deserve this? Or why are you being so irritable? But it's because that scab with the festering wound underneath hasn't been addressed. So what are we doing and how are we doing in that area? And do we incorporate activities in our lives that help us feel recharged? What is it? What it is for you might be very different from what it is for me. For me, it might be, cooking something I love to eat, or it might be hosting or being hospitable. For you, it might be keeping everybody out of your house, locking yourself in the room, and just soaking in your bathtub. It's very different. But what is it? What you need to identify that so you can be recharged. Next slide, please. Now, can you launch the poll, please? Because I don't have the ability to. So with the next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at some myths and some facts. When we talk about self-care, Sapola, were you able to launch? You can go ahead and launch the poll. when we think about self-care, some of us have these myths about it. Most of us have more myths than we have facts. So I want you to look at the questions, which I can't see. I want you to look at the questions. I think there should be 6 of them. And
Yes.
each one will ask you, is it a myth or is it a fact? Is it a myth or is it a fact? So just keep responding. And then once you respond, we'll share the result and we'll be able to look at what it is. So while you look at those questions that are coming up, which one is a myth? Which one is a fact? And then we'll look at the results shortly. And once you pull it up, you can go ahead and read it, please. So as we think about it, a few things I want us to remember as we pull up the poll. And please let me know when the second poll is up. We just want to remember that self-care is about me, taking care of me. Self-care is easier when I put my hand in God's hand and allow him to walk me through this life. Self-care is about looking at the different areas of my life and finding how I'm doing in those areas and being proactive about it. Is the poll up, please?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you can go ahead and read it, please.
Okay, self-care should be indulging in a cup of hot chocolate with a good book or creating boundaries. Is that a myth or a fact? Question 2, you need money to practice self-care. Is that a myth or a fact? Question 3, self-care is for everyone. Is that a myth or a fact? No, question 4, self-care is doing anything that feels good. Is that a myth or a fact? And question 5, self-care must be earned. Is that a myth or a fact? And the last question, the effects of self-care are temporary. Is that a myth or a fact? So I'm going
Thank
to
you,
wait.
Stabola.
24% say that question 1 is a myth. 24% say that self-care could be indulging in a cup of hot chocolate with a good book or creating boundaries is a myth. It's actually a fact. So 76% got that right. Question 2, you need to practice self-care. 71% say it's a myth and 29% say it's a fact. What's the answer?
You need to practice self-care.
So
Yes,
it is a fact.
we all need to practice self-care. It's a fact.
So question 3, self-care is for everyone. Myth or a fact? Everyone got that right, 100%. And question 4, self-care is doing anything that feels good. Is that a myth? 41% say it's a myth. 59% say it's a fact.
Sorry, go ahead.
Self-care
I'm reading,
doing...
hold on a second. I'm reading the chat and I'm just getting, I can't see the poll and I'm reading the chat and it's just, I'm just enjoying it. And thank you all for your engagement. Someone said, the kind of self-care I like, yeah, thank you, Ade and Funke. The kind of self-care I like costs money. I understand it totally. And yes, if yours costs money, that's your self-care and it's totally allowed. Totally allowed. So it's just to let you all know that self-care for you and self-care for me can be very different. My self-care today might cost me a lot of money. My self-care tomorrow might not. It all depends on where I'm at and what it is what kind of self-care I'm indulging in. And I want us to remember that none of these things are wrong. We just want to know which one is a myth and which one is a fact. And so far, we're doing great. Please go ahead.
I have a contribution to that. You do not need money for self-care in general, but you can choose like you said, the particular one that you can choose, that you chose, maybe cost money, but you can explore other options. If what you're choosing right now costs money and you don't have the money, you shouldn't let that stop you from exploring other options. So generally speaking, you don't need money to practice self-care. There are very many options that don't need money, because that word there, need, is very instructive. Do we need money? No. Please, at least that's the way I see it. I don't know if you agree with me.
No, that's totally true. Totally true. Please go to the next one.
So please don't let that need money, throw you off and prevent you from taking care of yourself. Okay. And then the one that says self-care is doing anything that feels good. Is that really? I'll let you answer. Self-care is doing anything that feels good.
What are the responses we got?
Myth, 41%. Fact, 59%.
Now, it's a myth because self-care, everything that feels good is not always beneficial to us. Because remember, self-care is about what makes me, I like that Aurea said, sin can feel good, but it's not beneficial.
Exactly.
And there are repercussions to it. I mean, I love donuts, non-glazed donuts. I love just plain simple donuts. Now, if I had my way, I could just shove down maybe, okay, I won't tell you the number because then you look at me strange. But I could shove down quite a number of them with a good cup of frothy hot chocolate on a cold day. But it feels good, but it's not good for me because the repercussions are not positive. So that is a myth. It doesn't have to feel good. I might have to exercise, which might leave me with pain in my joints after. But the day after, I'll feel very energized. Yes, it was painful. It didn't feel good, but it is self-care because it's getting me on the right track. Awesome. Next one, please.
Self-care must be earned. Myth, 76%. Facts, 24%.
Awesome. It is a myth. It mustn't be earned. And this is especially for parents. Sometimes we think, oh no, I have to do so and so and so before I get the self-care. Oh, I have to check all these boxes before. No. It's time taken away from everything I have to do to take care of me so I can take care of everyone else. Next one, please. I think this should be the last one.
The last one, it says the effects of self-care are temporary. Myth, 88%. Fact, 12%.
Now, the effects of self-care are permanent. So myth is right, because when I do that, I feel better about myself and gives me the energy to even feel better the next time. So we are all on a roll and we are all answering right. And I'm grateful for your responses. With that, let's go to the next slide. As we go along, feel free to set the chat room on fire. I see them popping up on my screen every once in a while. And it's very exciting because I see that you're all engaging. So now that we have looked at, what self-care is, what the myths are, I want us to think about a few things. I started off in the beginning by saying that I don't want anyone to feel guilty, neither do I want anyone to feel like there's this, I'm holding a stick over their heads, because it's an area we all need improvement in. As I was researching, I came across some numbers that the Kelton Group had pulled together. It's a consumer insights and strategy consulting firm. And they did this survey with 1,000 American adults in 2019. Now, these are some of the numbers. I want you to listen to the numbers just so that you can say to yourself, okay, I'm not alone. We all need work here, but we're not going to stay there. We're going to do something about it. 40% of people say they rarely make time for themselves. 51% admit they feel burnt out. 3 in 5 people say they feel overwhelmed with everything going on in their lives. 3 in 10 parents wish that they spent more time taking care of themselves. 3 in 10. 39% feel guilty for taking time for themselves. And 3 in 10 adults, American adults, say they block off time for themselves on their calendars. So for every 10 people, only 3 people block out time for themselves on their calendars. You see those stark numbers? It means that we need work. We need to do work. And it's no surprise that we are having all these incidents with mental health, and we're having all these incidents with suicide and all these incidents with breakdowns and panic attacks. It's because our bodies, our beings are screaming take care of me too. Take care of me too. So now that we've seen all that, where do we go from here? We want to build a self-care plan. And to build a self-care plan, we want to assess our needs. You make a list of the different parts of your life. You know, like I said, it's very unique. Yours is unique to you, mine is unique to me. And you want to look at your work, your school, your relationships, your family. You want to see all those areas. Those are the areas you engage with on a daily basis. You want to identify them and assess them. What takes so much time? What requires me to be there mentally? What requires me to be there physically? What requires the whole of me? All of that. And then you also want to consider your stresses. You know, as I was talking about the boundaries in the earlier slides, you want to identify those stresses because that is the way you'll be able to address it. And then you want to devise self-care strategies. What activities can you do to help you feel better? You know, where those areas of your life are concerned. You know, developing boundaries I talked about earlier. Cleaning, cooking. For some of us, cleaning is not top on our list. We don't like it, but we do it. But we want to find out how to do it effectively because we know for most people, we thrive better in an organized area or atmosphere. So if these things I need to do are too much for me, I should be able to use my money to pay somebody to do it. And it's not waste of money. Sometimes we think so, but it's not, because it gives me time to recharge. And then we also want to discover areas we are neglecting so we can take care of those areas. So remember, I was saying that all these different things I engage with on a daily basis. Am I neglecting this because I'm too tired for this? My 5-year-old is asking me or wanting to chat about their schoolwork, or my 17-year-old is wanting to talk to me about something happening with her or with him at school. But am I so drained that I'm snappy or I shut them up because I haven't assessed those needs and I haven't addressed those areas that are lacking? And then we also want to plan for changes. Maybe today, the focus will be in one area, tomorrow will be in another area, so that the self-care I have put in place for what it was before totally changes. I should be adaptable to that because remember, I always want to put my care at the forefront so I'm not dishing out fumes to everybody else. Then I want to take small steps. So for instance, after today's meeting, we'll address it later. We'll talk about what we want to leave this meeting with. One self-care thing we want to leave this meeting with. Like I said, we'll talk about it later. But I don't want to say I want to climb Kilimanjaro today. No, I want to take small steps. So maybe for me, it's that book sitting on my bedside table that I've been spying and eyeing, but I haven't read yet. I want to be able to read it. I want to be able to read one chapter. I want to be able to read half a chapter. Small steps so that we don't abandon it. The next thing, we want to schedule time to focus on our needs. Even when we feel we don't have time for one more thing, I want to put my care, my self-care, my time first. Because I'm only as good and productive as a human being as the care I give to myself. Now, the benefits of self-care are that it helps me to show my best self to the world and to the people closest to me. So if I'm lacking in that area, guess what? I'm not a very nice person, or I won't be a very nice person to hang around. So what are some of the benefits or the importance of self-care? Reduces anxiety, reduces depression, reduces stress, improves resilience. And I want to talk a little bit about the improving resilience. if someone says, life is lifing, which means that things are kind of tough. Things are going in a particular way that wasn't the plan. But we're living, we're alive. And going through that might be for a season. We have to have the ability to come back to center. And that is the improving resilience. Now, if my self-care is lacking woefully, then guess what? It'll take me more time and more effort, if at all, to come back to center. So self-care reduces stress and improves our ability to bounce back and get on with life, because life is not always a bed of roses. And someone says, and roses do have thorns, right? So even if it's a bed of roses, guess what? Every once in a while, you get those little pricks from the thorns. But that is life. We are alive and we're well. And the ability, we want to be able to move forward from one thing to the next. It improves our happiness. It increases our energy, reduces burnout, and gives us stronger interpersonal relationships. I was talking about the child who wants to talk to you about their school, or even your spouse or your friend or whoever it is wants to talk to you about something, but you're so exhausted that you're irritable, you're edgy, and they're wondering what is going on. And remember when I talked about our emotional care and talked about the scab and the festering wound, and they're like, why is she responding this way? I only asked you this simple question. That is because there are things going on down beneath that we haven't addressed, and it's showing forth in our not good self. But we want to show to others, or want to live in our best possible self. And just as you see the lady giving herself that big stretch, indulge me. Everyone taking a deep breath and stretch. Everybody stretch. How does that feel? For me, it feels really good. Yes, that's self-care. That's that moment. See the smile on her face. Awesome, happy, great. Yes, see the smile on her face. Yes, you needed that stretch. I like that. We all do. But guess what? We all miss it sometimes because we're too busy with everything else. Now, if you look at this on your screen, it's to my left, so it might be to your right, I don't know. But make time for yourself. And look at that little clock with all the little arrows, but it's all pointed to you and pointed to yourself. It's important. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is taking care. That umbrella with the rain coming down is shielding myself from the rain. Self-care is enjoying the sense of a candle or some candle melts, that hot chocolate, that walk, that ice cream, that putting up my feet and catching up on all the movies I haven't watched. I mean, it's really switching off. And with that, I'd like to share that as I'm assuming, it might not be that most of us on this line are African. And when we think about vacation, sometimes we think, oh, it's just going somewhere where we have family or friends and we're going to spend time with them. That's great. If that spending time doesn't mean more work. So if I go there and I am still working in the kitchen, I'm still going grocery shopping, I'm still doing all the things that I'll be doing at home, but just in a different environment, then it's really not a vacation. We want to be able to switch off, go somewhere where we can be us alone. If this might be gross, but hey, if it means I don't brush my teeth all day, or I wear my PJs all day, it's me. I don't, what else? I walk barefoot all day. It should be fine. We should all have that time where we just switch off so we can switch back on, like the quote we saw in the beginning. So these are some nuggets about self-care. Good self-care involves doing things that will keep you operating or will help you to operate at an optimal level. Our self-care needs change. We've talked about that over time. So I might like to walk, but if I live in Georgia and it's the beginning of spring and the pollen is so bad, I might not be able to walk, because after I walk, I'll have to contend with watery eyes, itchy ears, itchy throat, blowing my nose, all that. So even though walking was my self-care go-to, maybe during spring, it changes. I have to do something else. I might have to go to the gym and do the treadmill or the elliptical, something else. And then, or go somewhere else, some other place where we don't have the yellow rain called pollen in Georgia. And then when self-care is not working, for instance, I ran a marathon. Finishing it is part of my self-care because it's a meeting a goal, which is important to me. And I'm pregnant. I can't do that. I can't expect it. It's my self-care thing. I have to know it has to change, because at this time or at that time in my life, that doesn't work anymore. And recognizing that is part of self-care. And then self-care looks different on all of us. So we talked about that in the myth or the fact that it doesn't need money. But if you want to use money for your self-care, hey, go for it. And I might want to join you on that, because that self-care might include a spa day. That is it. So it's different from, but for me, at this time in my life, it might be a walk on the beach, or it might be cleaning out my closet so I can see what I have and I can use. All that is different from one person to the next, and different from one time in our lives to the next, and from one period to the next. It's all about balance. We should feel a sense of autonomy when it comes to self-care. So I can't prescribe your self-care needs to you. I can't tell you what works best. I can tell you what worked for me, but that doesn't mean it should work for you. And then also, we don't sentence ourselves to something we need to do. If I haven't run these 5 miles, I haven't taken care of myself. No. You can challenge yourself, yes, but we don't want it to be like an albatross around your neck. It's like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, because it's self-care. No, because then we're defeating the purpose of self-care. So the common denominator of self-care practice is that you want to get some enjoyment out of the activity, but you might also want to note that some not so fun activities might be self-care. We talked about cleaning the house, for instance. So, and maybe even your annual checkups with the doctor, you might not like it, because sometimes the pokes and the prods are not fun, but we need it. Keeping our house clean, we talked about that, because we're able to operate, for most people, where there's order. And so even though these things might not bring us joy in the moment when we're doing it ourselves, at least for most people, some people love to clean, and I applaud you for that. For most people, they go a long way to boosting our overall well-being and our peace of mind. So actually, adopting a self-care practice improves our life. We've looked through different things and we've assessed how we're doing in the department. And we talked about it in the beginning, that it's especially important in these times, because everything around us is going so fast. The world is, like I said, life is lifing. And so we need to be intentional about finding ways to relax. It's not only sleeping, it's how to recharge our batteries, how to ensure that we are able to give everyone our best self. And with that being said, I'm going to give us all a couple of minutes. Put in the chat one self-care practice. I will start immediately. I said I because I'm included. I will start immediately. Please put it in the chat. And as they come up, Achenyo or Riofe, feel free to call them out as they put it in the chat. One self-care practice I will start immediately. We want to hold ourselves accountable. I know you're writing it and you might not see the chat after that, but I want you, after you write it in the chat, to write it somewhere too and start. Going to bed earlier. Yes, I like that. Sorry, Achenyo or Riofe, Tenny, please go ahead.
More massages, exercise, yeah. Okay. Exercise,
Yes.
reading books at the bedside.
Yes, me too.
Cleaning,
Yes.
eating better. Okay.
Yes.
Cutting off from work. Yeah. Disconnecting. Yeah. Switching off.
Yes. Anything else? Anything else? Keep putting it in the chat.
Shutting down phones. Hanging out with friends. Unplugging. Reading favorite books. Writing. Good. Writing. Watching movies.
Yes. 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 You're all here with me. I mean, I just applaud you all because you feel it just like I feel it. Yes.
Me time. No kids. No husband.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. No kids. No husband. Medical checkup. Okay.
Yes.
Listening to good music.
Listen to good music. I like that.
Okay. Not worrying about the kids. Yeah. Yeah. Me time.
Yeah.
Improving my diet.
All right. Keep putting it in the chat. But thank you all for sharing. And you see how different these things are. For some, it was switching off. For others, it was massages. For others, it's me time. For others, it's spending time on me, no kids, no husband. I mean, different for every single person. And like I said, you've put it in the chat. Please write it somewhere else so you can start doing it. There's something about writing things down. The Bible says, write the vision, make it plain upon tablets so that he who sees it can run with it. It means me, as I look at it, I've written, I want to go to bed earlier, or I've written, I want to switch off, or I've written, I want to cut off from work, or I've written, at this time, nobody from work should be able to reach me. I want to write that down so I can run with it. I can see it and I can run with it. It's very, very important because like I said, we don't want to dish out. I like that, Tommy. And Tommy is an amazing person who works in the skincare routine and hair routine. So I think this is Queen Tommy. I think so. So when she says skincare routine, she knows what she's talking about. She has beautiful skin. So we look at all these things and we want to remember that we want to do that so that we're giving to everyone around us our best selves and not our fumes. And I would want to encourage everyone to look for a piece by Dr. Saundra Dalton Smith. Saundra is S-A-U-N-D-R-A. Dalton is D-A-L-T-O-N. Smith is S-M-I-T-H. And PRI, somebody can please put in the chat. She has a TED talk on the 7 types of rest. You know, I talked about the 5 types of self-care. She kind of puts it, you know, looks at it as rest. And she adds the creative and sensory as well, which I was talking about there are 7 areas, but I talked about 5. She has a TED talk that is less than 10 minutes, but really good on YouTube. I encourage everyone to look at it. And now there is something another PhD, psychologist also says, his name is Dr. Gillihan. He says, if your goals are based on things you actually care about in life, work, relationships, spiritual connections, social change, etc. If they are based on that versus based on what people expect from you, then you're doing great. So looking at me, looking at what my goals are, what my needs are, and addressing them for me, it's much better than having people dictate how I do me. Self-care is about balance. You should feel a sense of autonomy when it comes to self-care and choosing what your self-care needs are. You shouldn't feel punitive. You shouldn't be sentencing yourself to more than you're willing to do. And with that being said, brings me to the end of my presentation on self-care. I pray that you've learned something. I have learned things from it. Now we're open to hear your questions, your comments, your contributions. But before then, I'd like all PRI to give the people, the participants today, a round of applause, because you know what you've done. You showed the chat room that you are in charge. You put the chat room on fire today. And I'm so proud of you all. So PRI, can you all unmute yourselves and give our participants today an amazing round of applause? Thank you all. Feel free to unmute yourself. Put your hand up so we can see, and unmute you if you've been muted, so you can share comments, something you've learned along the way, questions. Please feel free. Over to you now. Thank you all.
Wow, thank you so much, Valerie. That was a great presentation. Everyone, could you please give Valerie a round of applause? I had fun listening. I had fun looking at, reading the reactions in the chat. Awesome, awesome. And you know, she shared things that are really very simple. Sometimes you listen to some presentations on self-care and it feels far-fetched, like things that are unattainable. But she's shared very simple things that are, you know, that we all can easily do, you know, little changes here and there, like she said, you know, and we're all going to be the better for it. Because if you look at it and if you've been following the news, there's just so much happening out there. People are upset, people are angry, and you can trace it back to exhaustion. You know, people are just exhausted. They're not happy with themselves. They're not happy with where they are in life. And then they take it out on the rest of us. Please don't be a part of those who take out stuff on the other people. And it starts with taking care of yourself, taking ownership of yourself, taking ownership of your own care, you know, doing the things that work for you, identifying the things that work for you. You know, like these days, something that I constantly do is I have a playlist on YouTube. I have some very good music that I love, and I put them in a list and I put them on shuffle. And sometimes when the pressure is getting at me, somehow that line from the music gets into my head, and I quickly shift. Like I catch myself trying to, you know, like not be so good. And then maybe a line of lyrics or a tune or something from that music just, you know, floods my heart, floods my soul, and I catch myself and I get back on track. And I also want to emphasize, please, please, please go for your medical checkups. We don't have the time. I would have told you my own story of how one medical checkup saved my life. I almost put off the appointment, but somebody kept getting on me and checking on me and saying, Bola, you told me you were going for that appointment, did you? And I said, no. And she kept calling me and calling me until I did. And it turned out it was a lifesaver. When I say it was a lifesaver, it was a lifesaver. And thank God it was caught on time. So please do not joke with your medical checkups. Maybe I could even ask here right now while we are here, how many people have scheduled or done their annual wellness checkup? For those of you who are women, how many of you have set up the appointment for your mammogram, or you have actually done it? How many of you have seen your dentist or set up an appointment? This is your reminder. This is the Holy Spirit telling you, go do it. And I'm laughing, but I'm not kidding. Please go do it. And honestly, one more thing that I wanted to say, I didn't want to disrupt Valerie while she was saying this. Like if you're talking with a friend and, you know, like all of a sudden they are dumping stuff on you, let it go. But after they have calmed down, please pick up the phone again and call them, or go find them and say, hey, sis, I'm not angry or anything, but that dump that you dumped on me, or that aggression that you transferred, can we get to the bottom of it? Are you okay? And please do it with love. Don't do it with judgment or condemnation. Just ask them. Maybe they are going through stuff and they're not paying attention to it. Maybe God allowed them to dump on you. And I'm not saying it's right to dump on people, but maybe God allowed them to dump on you so that you can catch the fact that something is not well with them. And you need to go talk with them as nicely as you've ever been, or as you could ever be, as kind as possible, as gentle as possible, and call their attention. Maybe they need to let go of something. Maybe they need to unwind. Maybe something has been pummeling them and they are not paying attention to it. And now it showed up in that outburst. Sisters and brothers, please don't take anything for granted. I've learned not to take things for granted these days. You know, please don't take anything for. Somebody may be very close to the edge and you don't know how close to the edge they are. And you could be the saving grace that they need. Please, let's pay attention to one another. Let's encourage one another. Be on the lookout for your sister, for your brother, for your neighbor, and encourage one another. And I also want to say, for those of us who are constantly in meetings, Microsoft Teams, you know, there's something in Microsoft Outlook now that says focus time that helps you to block your calendar, maybe 10 minutes every hour or 10 minutes every 2 hours. You can use that and block your calendar. So those 10 minutes, you can get up and go for a walk. That's something I started doing 3 years ago when I came close to, I don't want to tell that story. I don't know why it keeps coming back, you know, because I do this sedentary work. So I had to get into the habit of getting up and you know, going for a walk, 10 minutes. By the time I've sat down for 2 hours in front of my laptop, 10 minutes, I'm going for a walk. Go downstairs, go to the mailbox, walk in my neighborhood. 10 minutes every 2 hours is what doctors recommend to keep you fit. If you walk for 8 hours a day and you walk 10 minutes every 2 hours, that's already 40 minutes of walking that you're getting in without even going to the gym, without even going, you know, to the park. Just get up every 2 hours, walk, don't sit, don't go back and just sit in another place. Don't get up only to go and sit down in another place. No, walk in your neighborhood, walk upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, and that would go a long way. I'm sure we have all been enlightened today. Maybe something that you stopped doing, please pick it up. Something good that you stopped doing, pick it up. Maybe something bad that you need to stop doing, please let it go. All right. Thank you so much. Before we go, I have a few quick announcements that I'm going to share with us. If you're not on our mailing list already and you would want to be, I would encourage you to please text join PRI.
Join PRI to 24251.
Okay, so that you can get on our mailing list. We have some awesome things going on, you know, that would happen this year, and we want you to be a part of it. We don't want you to miss any of those things. One important announcement that I would like to make is this: we need volunteers and mentors. We're expanding our program. The work is becoming too much for the few of us that are doing it, but the need is really increasing. If you've been watching the news and you've been watching people, you know that something is happening with families, with children. And more than ever before, our teens, our youth, our young adults need mentors. So we are asking you if you can mentor youth directly, or if you just want us to help us do some of the stuff that we do behind the scenes. It's a lot of work behind the scenes. It's not anything, you know, when you see us online like this, it may sound or it may feel like, oh, it's what? It's a celebrity or in vogue or whatever. It's nice looking, but there's a lot of stress behind the scenes. And we are asking you to come ahead or to come along and help us. All you need is 4 to 6 hours per month of commitment. Or maybe you can't even do 4 hours, you can do 2 hours. You know, we need help with administrative stuff. We need help with counseling. Sometimes I spend 3, 4, 5 hours in a week counseling people, and I'm not even certified. I'm looking to get that done right now anyway. And we need social workers. We need educators. If you're a team player, you know, please come on board. You can text that number to PRI, or you can text my phone number, or you can text or email us. And then if you really want to focus on mentoring youth, we need people who are passionate, who are driven, who are patient, who are attentive. Sometimes these kids just want to vent. Sometimes they just call me and say, oh, Auntie Bola, I don't know, my classes didn't go well this week. And that's all they want is somebody to listen to them. If you have any of these skills and you have 2 to 4 or 6 hours per month, please email us or text me, you know, and we need your help. We really, really, really need your help. We don't want to assume that other people are listening to these children or that other people are looking out for them or watching them. The need is increasing, and we need to go, you know, step up our game as well. God bless you as you respond. And then last but not the least, please follow us on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. We have a lot of resources on YouTube, past messages, past presentations. Please go there, watch and like them and share them with your friends. You know, a lot is going on with parents these days, and we all can use the encouragement that we can get. And of course, next month, we are going to be talking about overcoming the imposter syndrome. And in talking about that, we're going to be looking at our emotions, our personalities. We are also going to be doing some personality assessment. As a matter of fact, this is a good time for you to be sure that you are on our mailing list. If you're not on our mailing list, you want to get on our mailing list so that we can send you information. We will encourage people to take some personality assessments online before coming for that event, and we will be sending out the information. So if you're not on our mailing list, please get on our mailing list so we can send information to you as the date approaches. We really have a lot of good stuff lined up for this year. We're going to be talking about branding yourself, you know, storytelling. How do you tell your story to change the trajectory of your career, to develop and grow in the workplace, and to be able to use all these things to help your child. We're going to be able to help our children more when we ourselves get better. When we improve ourselves, we'll be able to help our children more. You'll be able to be a parent that they want to come back to, even when they have, you know, left your nest and, you know, started their own life. Can they still come back to you? What do you know that you can use to help them? How can you guide them in their career? A lot of those things we're going to be talking about in the course of this year. We're going to be talking about how to relate with your adult child. You know, your child is 27 or 29. Are you still talking with them or to them as if they are 13? Lots and lots and lots of interesting topics in the course of this year. But of course, for May, it's overcoming the imposter syndrome. We're going to be talking about our emotions, our personality styles, or personality types, and how we can overcome the imposter syndrome, having identified the kind of people we are. So join us every third Saturday of the month. Make sure you are on our list. Make sure you're following our social media and getting information. And for those of you who've been following, you know that we are posting lots and lots and lots of resources on Facebook and Instagram. In fact, I don't want to go there, but I encourage you, go find out what you can use for yourself and for your child. And of course, we're always here to answer your questions. Feel free to reach out to any one of us, you know, private message us, and we would reach back to you, or that phone number, send me a text, send an email. We'll work with you, we'll work with your child. We want to support you. And we want this community to be strong and to be, you know, like effective, impactful. We don't want to be the dregs. We don't want to be on the lower rungs of the ladder. We want to be high performers, high achievers. And it starts from here. So everyone, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for spending your early afternoon with us. And for those of you already in the evening in Nigeria and Europe, we thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again next month by the grace of God. And while you're at it, go do something for yourself this weekend. If you're looking for a partner, send me an email. I'll find you somebody to go with you. You know, go on a hike, go on the trail, go watch a movie, go to the spa, go do something for you. Go do something for you, not for your family. Now go do something for you. God bless you. We love you.